Hey everybody, this is Reverend Dr. Tom Iannello from the North Isle Wellness Center of Hope in Miller Place. This is week 2 of our men's hormonal balancing workshop section for June. What we wanted to do is talk a little bit about eating healthy fat this week because we want to make sure that men are eating appropriately to drive their fats, to also drive their hormones. So as an example, when it comes to fat and comes to health and good hormones for men, the key is eating monounsaturated fats. Now, what I mean by monounsaturated is that they're not as saturated as, let's say, a polyunsaturated fat. But your monounsaturated fats are things such as olive oil, avocado, peanut butter, nuts, and even things such as egg yolks from eggs. So these types of fats will actually build and drive higher testosterone levels 40% greater than men that don't consume these fats. So we know that these monounsaturated fats have the ability to convert over to make testosterone. So again, guys, if you want to start creating and driving testosterone naturally, whether you're 30, 50, or 70, your diet must be reflective so that your body can actually produce the right biochemistries in order to create that specific hormone. So again, to reiterate, olive oil, avocado, peanut butter, nuts, and definitely egg yolks. The other thing to be concerned about also is that when you're on a high-fat diet, if we're going to increase the amount of fat, the calories in fat are even twice the number of calories as in carbohydrates and proteins. So a gram of fat has 9 calories, but a gram of carbohydrates and protein only has 4 calories. So what you must be concerned about with when you're consuming a high-fat diet, which is a good healthy diet, is to minimize on the simple carbohydrates, because you want to make sure that you avoid too high of a caloric intake from unnecessary and unhealthy calories. So this is things such as cake, cookies, candy, bread, pasta, and even alcohol. So if you're eating a high carb diet with a high fat diet, what happens is you just gain weight because now you've got too much of a caloric intake. And remember that carbohydrates produce insulin, and if you have insulin in the bloodstream, it stores all that fat that you're consuming. So we don't want that. What we want is we want you to consume the healthy fats as the precursors to testosterone. You want to have not a high level of carbohydrate, maybe anywhere from 30 to 50 grams of complex carbohydrates. That would be things such as fruits and vegetables, maybe sweet potatoes, oatmeals, things that are complex, not simple refined sugars. I mean, honestly, guys, you should never consume simple refined sugars in any way, shape, or form anyway, because there's nothing good about a simple refined sugar other than it tastes really good. It's the same thing with consuming white, starchy type foods. So white rice, white flour, these things have been stripped of the healthy fibers that surround them, and now they're just starch. And just unhealthy carbs. So no carbs are created the same. A good carb is not the same as a bad carb. So your good carbs are your complex carbs. As I mentioned, the sweet potatoes, the oatmeal, and the brown organic rice, that's fine. The white rices, the white flours, that's garbage. Never consume them, and absolutely do not consume them with a high-fat diet because you'll just store all that fat into calories, store it all into fat cells. The other thing we want to do is when we do consume a high-fat diet, you want to have it, as I mentioned, with protein and complex carbs. So again, the complex carbs are the sweet potatoes, the brown rice, and the beans. These will actually help you lose the fat while you're building muscle with your training. So that's the way you want to look at it. Now again, getting back to eggs, I'm a big fan of whole eggs. Why? Because whole eggs contain the yolk, and in the yolk is the cholesterol. Now cholesterol gets a really bad rap, but again, take the word cholesterol and take it apart. Cholesterol is a sterile hormone. So believe it or not, cholesterol is a sterile hormone and actually is good for you. And cholesterol is the precursor sterile fat hormone that makes testosterone. So when I have patients coming in here with their lab work and they're telling me, oh my gosh, my cholesterol is over 200, my doctor wants to put me on a statin drug, I do not agree with that mindset. I believe that cholesterol should be in the neighborhood of about 250. And I think that we need that cholesterol in order to make the precursors to our testosterone. So I for one, eat 6 eggs every morning for breakfast. People think, oh my God, how do you eat 6 eggs? That's 42 grams of protein, a good healthy amount of cholesterol, and plenty of protein. So, I don't see a problem with that, and I've been doing it for years, and my cholesterol numbers are good, my hormones are good, and everything works well. Again, the American belief that cholesterol creates heart disease has been perpetrated by the pharmaceutical companies to drive the intake of, lipid blockers or statins, such as Lipitor and whatever the flavor of the month is right now in the world of statin drugs. But basically, if you're consuming too much statin drugs and you're lowering your cholesterol too much, you're not only lowering your ability to make hormones, guys, you're actually changing your brain itself, because your brain is roughly about 70% cholesterol and fat by weight. So, not that this is a topic to get into, but it does have a lot to do with men. If you look at the history of dementia, as the years are going by, we're getting dementia in our 50s, where we used to not get it till our 70s and 80s as men. And I think a reason for this is the fact that we're consuming these statin drugs, which are synthetically removing cholesterol from our bloodstream and from our bodies, which cannot find its way to create healthy fat. So your brain, as I mentioned, is high percentage of cholesterol and fat, and if you're taking a statin drug to synthetically drive your cholesterol down because you're under the belief that you're going to prevent a heart attack, I can tell you, number one, that the statistics and the studies on high cholesterol causing heart attack are flawed, and I've never seen a double-blind study that was actually truthful that showed cholesterol causes heart condition. And number two, you're actually shrinking your brain. You're causing your brain to actually shrink in size and lose its fat content. And as your brain shrinks, your cognitive abilities go down. You become confused, you forget who you are, and you can eventually have dementia and a problem with memory loss. So there's a big win in having good levels of cholesterol in your diet, which again goes along with having good healthy fat in the diet. The other thing I want you to be aware of is that when we want to make sure that we're digesting and absorbing our fats, there are things we want to minimize, if not eliminate. So one thing I would say is that we need to put more attention on drinking clean water. And that means water that is not fluoridated and not chlorinated. Now, if you live in New York, as we do here, that's impossible to get in your tap water because our tap water has both fluoride and chlorine in it. So the solution to that is one of two. Either you take the time to get a whole house filtration system, as I have, and you filter the water from the source of the main coming in, and then it's cleansed through a processing system that makes it clean, whether it's in your tap or in your shower head, and you clean the water source at your home and you drink that is okay. The other thing you can do, if you're not going to go whole house filtration, you must be willing to spend the extra money to get a good quality water. So in our office out in the waiting room, we've chosen to get in glass a spring water that's made in Arkansas that has a very natural high mineral content, but absolutely has no fluoride or chlorine in it. And it's from one source, and that source has been tested, and we know that the water that we're drinking here in the office and for our patients is the highest quality bottled water that we can buy. So those are your two solutions for good clean water. The other thing you have to avoid to keep your arteries clear and to keep your cholesterol levels working and going where they need to go is you need to minimize on trans fatty acids. So what's a trans fatty acid? Well, that's something that's synthetic, and that's what you find in the form of margarine or imitation cottage cheese or imitation fats of any type. So what happens is, instead of getting the calories from the butter, the manufacturers have put in trans fats to make them lower in calories. But the problem is that the margarine you're consuming has the chemical makeup of what looks like plastic. So it's now a toxin. So you're putting in these lower caloric trans fat substitutes thinking that you're doing something good for your heart, where you're actually feeding your body plastic, making your body toxic. And here's the worst part of it. When you put in anything that's plastic oriented into the body, it meets up with your hormones and creates what's called a xenoestrogen. Your body sees the plastic as a form of estrogen. and it actually infuses it into your hormonal pathways. And now instead of building healthy male testosterone, you're building a xenoestrogen combination of testosterone with the plastic from the trans fats, and now you've created a material that is really not even a hormone, but is a hormone derivative. And we know this from science that these hormone derivatives are cancer causing. So whether you're male or female and you're trying to prevent cancers that are related to hormones, or xenoestrogens as they call them in the industry, you cannot be consuming anything that's plastic or synthetic plastic. And that's what trans fatty acids are. They're synthetic plastics. And that brings us to the next thing. You don't want to microwave your food. Why? Because when you microwave anything like plastic in a microwave, the microwaves actually cause the plastic to leach from the plastic into whatever you're microwaving that's in the plastic. So if you heat up a cup of soup in a plastic bowl that was in the refrigerator, the plastic that's in the bowl from the microwave energy hitting it leaches the plastic into the soup, and then when you consume the soup, again, you're eating plastic. Same thing with saran wrap. You never want to put saran wrap in a microwave and nuke that, because whatever's in the saran wrap gets leached into whatever you're cooking in the microwave, whether it's food or liquid. These leached plastics get into your body, and again, we are back to the same story we were a minute ago. Now you're creating a xenoestrogen or a xenotestosterone that does not behave like the natural testosterone should behave. And now you're not driving testosterone, you're driving a cancer-causing hormone synthesis that is not testosterone. The other thing to watch out for is cheap commercial salt. You know, we talk to patients all week long about how I went out to dinner and I woke up the next day and I was swollen and I felt terrible and I was puffy and what have you. Yes, that happens with cheap commercial white salt. The good stuff is the pink Himalayan salts, and I used to be a bigger fan of sea salt, but after Fukushima and all the radiation from the reactor that went off there, the world's oceans have been polluted, and all that polluted water is floating around the earth. And I hate to say it, but we're now seeing radiated water supplies in California and up in Maine. So we know the water is flowing around the earth. So I would prefer that you got your salt from a cave, specifically pink Himalayan salt, which is mined. It's usually got much more minerals than regular salt, but pink Himalayan salt actually will lower your blood pressure and drive your hormones naturally. Whereas cheap white salt will actually raise your blood pressure and poison your body. So there is a difference in salt. You know, pink Himalayan salt is a healing mineral-based food. White processed salt is a toxin, and I would not consume that. I would try to do everything I can to avoid that. So again, the problem we have with going out to eat, even when you go to a good restaurant, is that you don't know what's in your food. You don't know, I can guarantee you they're going to cook with the cheapest salt that they can find because they have to maximize on their price index. Whereas when you're cooking at home and you're in control of your kitchen, you know what's going into your food. So I'm a big fan of pink Himalayan salt. I've seen it heal the body. It actually lowers blood pressure. It will drive hormones naturally, and it will actually keep the body in good homeostatic balance, so that you have good electrolyte balance in the body. And when the electrolytes are in balance, the organs are in balance, the kidneys, the liver, the gallbladder, everything works in conjunction with itself, the cardiopulmonary system works better, and the hormones just balance out naturally. The other types of good healthy fats are grass-fed, grass-finished butters, coconut oil for sure. I'm a huge fan of coconut oil. I eat coconut oil, I put it in my shakes, I put it on my skin, I use it as a suntan lotion in the summertime. I mean, you can virtually use coconut oil for everything, and it's really good for your body. So that's a good example of a healthy fat as well. And the other thing you're going to want to do is consume more fats in certain types of diet. Specifically, I recommend that men consume salmon 3 days a week. Why? And it should be wild-caught salmon, not farm-raised salmon. Farm-raised salmon is loaded with chemicals and stabilizers and colorings, which ruins it, and it's not the same thing as something that came from the earth and from the ocean. So go to your health food store, or go to your supermarkets, or even your fish stores that have wild-caught salmon, and consume it 3 days a week. There's a quick challenge that I can give to you that will actually work if you're willing to do it, and I've done this with women a lot. But just to show you the value and the power of good clean salmon, there's something I like to call the salmon challenge, where you get up on Friday morning, and for the next 3 days you consume salmon 3 times a day for 3 full days. You take a picture of yourself Friday morning, you consume salmon, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then get up on Monday morning and take another picture, and you will look 5 to 10 years younger just by doing that, because salmon, the essential fats that are in salmon are so healing to the body that you actually begin to de-inflame, and that doughy look that you can get as you get older, where you lose the contours of the chin, and you don't have that nice line in the chin, and you get jowls and things start to puff out. Salmon just reduces it and begins to just take everything back in again. So a lot of women that want a quick Botox without doing Botox can do the salmon challenge and actually eat their way into a less inflammatory state. And that in turn, guys, will clean your skin as well, clean the body, and actually drive your hormones naturally, because salmon is probably the #1 thing you can consume food-wise to drive the healthy testosterone and fats that you need for your body. All right, so I gave you a lot. Went off on a tangent, of course, as I like to, but listen to what I said and listen to it a few times, and then put in these changes as I recommended, and put that in as part of your diet, guys, and you're going to naturally start raising your testosterone levels. Okay, until next week, this is Reverend Dr. Iannello. Have a great week. I'll talk to you again next week, guys. Take care.